It's time to discuss something that as a diehard Blazer fan, I really don't want to discuss. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into today's video where we're going to talk about what should happen if the Blazers can't find a trade for the 3rd overall pick and Scoot Henderson is on the board. Should that mean that the Blazers should trade Dame? Will they trade Dame? I've never really entertained this topic on this channel, ever, and this is the first time I'm doing so. I'll give my opinion on what I think should and will happen if this scenario plays out, and what I think Dame's future is. But before we jump into things, this video is presented by BetOnline. Use the promo code BELIEVE, that's B-L-E-A-V, for a 50% reward bonus. You can get in on some betting action for the rest of the Eastern Conference Finals and the upcoming NBA Finals. MLB season's in full swing, and you can get in on any sport you want with BetOnline. Also, if you want to join a community of Blazer fans, check out our Discord, which is linked in the description box below. It's very active in there. We're having our mock-off season in there, and occasionally you'll be able to talk to me in there as well. So if you want to join the community, join our Discord, linked in the description box below. Now let's talk about Scoot Henderson, Damian Lillard, and the 3rd overall pick. Now, as far as what I think will happen this offseason, it's been pretty clear. I think the Blazers will trade the 3rd overall pick. If I had to bet right now, it would be Anthony Simons in the 3rd pick for Jaylen Brown. Of course, the Blazers need the Celtics to not pull off a miraculous comeback, and I have a gut feeling that that might be possible. I expect this series to go 6, maybe 7 games. But let's say Portland is not able to find any traction with the 3rd overall pick, and Scoot Henderson is there on the board at 3. What should the Portland Trailblazers do in that scenario? Well, I have been fully against a Damian Lillard trade, and I still am fully against a Damian Lillard trade, even if Scoot Henderson's on the board at 3 and Portland doesn't find a trade for that pick. You don't find guys like Damian Lillard easily. He's the best Blazer in franchise history, in my opinion, a history spanning longer than 50 years. He's loyal, represents the organization well on and off the court, and finding superstar players of his caliber is extremely difficult. Now, Dame wants to win, and he's putting pressure on the front office to try and accelerate a timeline in which this organization can contend. So in a hypothetical where the Blazers don't find a trade for the 3rd overall pick, if Scoot Henderson's on the board, it makes things very unclear. If Brandon Miller's there, the Blazers probably just select Brandon Miller and hope that he can have a big impact in year 1 and hope that Shaedon Sharpe has a jump, and then hope for their blockbuster trade at some point during the regular season. But if Scoot Henderson's there at 3, he's the clear-cut top option, but also a guy that would be difficult to bring into the fold for Portland. Shaedon Sharpe is a little bit more of a 2 than a 3 in my opinion. I think he can play some 3, but I think he needs to be around the right players, and I don't think he's good enough defensively to play the 3 next to Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons consistently. So with him being a little bit more of a shooting guard than a small forward, and then Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard are guards, bringing Scoot Henderson into the fold would be really tough to find him minutes. The Blazers would probably have to primarily play Shaedon Sharpe at the 3, or obviously trade out one of Sharpe, Simons, or Dame. A lot of fans will say that the right move is to trade Damian Lillard, but I think those fans overestimate 2 key things, which is why I disagree with them. The first key thing is how easy it is to contend after rebuilding in that way, and the second thing they overestimate is the return that Damian Lillard would fetch. I'll talk about number 2 in a second. As far as rebuilds go, if you look at a lot of contending teams in the league right now, a lot of them didn't get there by drafting at the top of the draft. The Nuggets are in the NBA Finals. They're there because they have Nikola Jokic, who they took with the 41st overall pick. They took him in the 2nd round. And you can say, yeah, it's really hard to get that guy. You're more likely to find talent at the top of the draft. But when you already have talent and you're trying to make the argument for trading that talent out just for a gamble with a draft pick, I feel like you can apply some of the same logic. It will be really hard to find another Damian Lillard. If I had to bet, I don't think Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, or Scoot Henderson will ever be as good as Damian Lillard was this past season when he averaged 32 points and over 7 assists per game on crazy efficiency. You look at Miami, they've been able to bring in undrafted rookies into the fold and develop them into role players that have helped them gain a 3-1 series lead on Boston. Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus are the 3 notable ones there. You look at the Lakers, they were actually worse than the Portland Trail Blazers at this past year's NBA trade deadline. However, the Lakers decided to bring in talent while the Blazers decided to trade out talent, and it resulted with the Lakers making a conference finals. I believe the league is a lot closer in terms of quality of team, I believe there's a lot more parity in the current NBA, and I think a lot more teams have a chance to be a quote-unquote contender, which is why, more than ever, I think that the Blazers will elect to keep Damian Lillard, and why I want to keep Damian Lillard, because even if they don't make a huge splash, I think it's possible for Portland to make some noise next year just by simply improving their bench, which was absolutely awful last season. And then if the Blazers could hang on to a double-digit lead, which they blew the most of last season, then you're talking about a team that looks a little bit different and is probably in the playoff picture. They were pretty close when they decided to blow it up. It wasn't like they were 10 games out of a playoff spot or anything crazy. The Blazers just elected to tank. If they added the right talent at the trade deadline, or maybe signed Bruce Brown in the offseason instead of GP2, we could be having completely different conversations right now. That's how close I think today's NBA is. Now, there's a couple teams that have rebuilt with top draft picks, the Grizzlies, for example, but the guy they took at number 2 has been a problem maker off the court and might be suspended for half the season next year. Being able to have a star that represents himself the way that Damian Lillard does is something that I feel like goes underappreciated. Blazer fans are so used to having Damian Lillard and a person of his qualities that I feel like those qualities don't get enough appreciation. Boston, of course, got Tatum and Brown with high draft picks. However, they got those draft picks because they traded a washed Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to the Brooklyn Nets. Speaking of Boston, I feel like a historic analog for the Blazers right now could be what the Celtics did in terms of acquiring Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett and going from one of the worst teams in the league to a team that won the championship. If the Blazers could pull off a similar move, I feel like it could be a similar story. The Philadelphia 76ers rebuilt with top draft picks. They've had the most famous rebuild in the 21st century. It was called The Process, and the process has resulted in the Sixers not being able to make it to a conference finals. The Sixers have not made it out of the second round. Now James Harden could be leaving, and the Sixers have really no assets to replace him and seem screwed for the foreseeable future. I mean, even Damian Lillard with a starting front court of Al-Farouq Aminu, Maurice Harkless, and Enes Kanter made a Western Conference Finals. I think you can surround Damian Lillard with a better team even if you draft Brandon Miller with the 3rd overall pick. I think you can surround Damian Lillard with a better team than that even if you don't find that splashy trade for the 3rd overall pick. The one thing that team had was good role players off the bench, and I think role players matter more than ever right now in an NBA that's closer than ever. So if the most famous rebuild in the NBA in my lifetime hasn't resulted in anything more than a second round, Blazer fans should not be so confident that trading Damian Lillard would result in anything more either. I know a lot of Blazer fans are bullish on the upside of a Shaedon Sharpe and an Anthony Simons and whoever the Blazers would draft with the 3rd overall pick, but we can't be so sure that Shaedon Sharpe ever becomes an all-star. We can't be so sure that Anthony Simons ever becomes a top 20 to 25 player. Those guys aren't there yet. We've seen guys burst onto the scene and have solid rookie seasons and not develop. We've also seen guys like Shaedon Sharpe end up becoming all-stars. We've seen so many players have impressive starts to their careers, maybe even get to the point that Anthony Simons is now, but never build much beyond that. I'm confident in the upside of both Simons and Sharpe, however, it's no sure thing. The second problem with any Damian Lillard trade scenario is Portland would not get enough asset value back in a trade, in my opinion. Damian Lillard is still a top 10 player. He should be fetching a package close to what the Phoenix Suns got for Kevin Durant. But you have a ton of teams in the NBA that would maybe be interested in Damian Lillard that don't have future firsts to trade. Brooklyn doesn't really have future firsts to trade. They built that super team, that big 3, that didn't pan out. Philadelphia doesn't have future firsts. They can't really make a play for Damian Lillard to pair him with Joel Embiid. Phoenix would love a Chris Paul upgrade. They traded their future first to Brooklyn. As far as Brooklyn goes, those are really only the future firsts they have, and I think you'd need more than just Phoenix's future first in any Dame trade. However, the Nets hold Mikal Bridges in really high regard and don't really have good young prospects that they could lump into a deal. I believe Miami can only trade 1 future first. Same thing with Milwaukee. Atlanta traded their future first for DeJounte Murray. Minnesota traded their future first for Rudy Gobert. Basically what you have is a lot of young rebuilding teams that would not have interest in Damian Lillard are stockpiling all the picks, and the teams that would be interested in trading for Damian Lillard don't have picks to trade for him. And that's not even the entire list. Boston's traded some of their future first. The Dallas Mavericks don't control any of their future first. They traded the rest out for Kyrie Irving, and that hasn't really panned out so far. Cleveland traded out their future first for Donovan Mitchell, and the Lakers don't own their future first. So, I mean, what contending team is going to give up a lot of firsts for Damian Lillard? I don't really see one out there, and it's not because Dame doesn't have value. He should have a ton of value. I think he's the second best point guard in the league, and I think he's still a top 10 player. But in terms of what teams can give up, Portland would not get a suitable return on any Damian Lillard trade. To that point, it's pointless to discuss. Now, if push comes to shove in the future and Damian Lillard finally decides that he wants out or whatever, then we can cross the bridge of, okay, where is Dame getting traded to and what is the best package that the Portland Trail Blazers can get back. But when the status quo for over a decade has been Dame wants to be in Portland and Dame staying in Portland, until that status quo obviously changes, there's no point in pretending like it has. After getting the third pick, Portland's front office sent out emails for renewals on season tickets, and it featured Damian Lillard and talked about how the front office is looking to put a competitive team around him. It's no secret that this front office plans on appeasing Damian Lillard and keeping Damian Lillard in a Blazer uniform. If Damian Lillard is not back in a Blazer uniform next year, I will be absolutely shocked. I don't know what happens if Scoot Henderson's there at 3 and the Portland Trail Blazers don't find a trade with that third pick. We might have to discuss some hypotheticals such as trading down for the 6th and 11th picks plus Wendell Carter Jr. from the Magic in such scenarios. But the tricky part with that is I feel like that is undervaluing Scoot Henderson as a prospect who would go #1 in a lot of drafts. So it's a tricky situation for Joe Cronin and the Blazers to be in. There are scenarios where I wonder how they'd play out. I think the storyline surrounding this Blazers front office are the most intriguing in the league. It's kind of fun covering a team that is the most compelling storyline this offseason. But a big part of that intrigue for other fan bases is, could Damian Lillard get traded and where will he get traded? But a lot of that conversation is so far-fetched that there's no point in even having a conversation for me. More so, the intrigue falls into how the Blazers handle keeping Damian Lillard and potentially having Scoot Henderson available for the third pick if they can't find the trades that they want. Will the Blazers overpay? Will the Blazers try and make it work with 4 guards, Simons, Sharp, Scoot, and Dame? I have no clue how that scenario would play out, but I'm fascinated to potentially find out. Hopefully it doesn't get there, though. Hopefully Portland can swing something like a Jaylen Brown trade and just make it easy for the rest of us. And please, Dame, keep in a Blazer uniform. And hopefully we're talking about a team that is at least dark horse contender next year. That's what I want. That's what the Blazers front office goal is. And if you're a Blazer fan who wants Damian Lillard traded and keeps spamming it, it's not going to change anything. You should just accept reality at this point and move on and embrace having a player as special as Damian Lillard in a Blazer uniform, because not doing so I think is just absolutely silly. Anyway, that's a wrap for this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Thank you to BetOnline for sponsoring this one as well. Huge shout out to them. And if you want more of this conversation, I dropped a podcast with Stephen Vaughn over on my second channel, Blazers Uprise Live, where we debated trading Dame, and he's more accepting of trading Dame than I am, so it got a little bit feisty. It was a lot of fun having a podcast with him, so definitely go check that out. Link in the description box below for that and the Discord and everything else. With that being said, I'm out of here. I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.